One.
Hi, and welcome to another Cold Wind Talk. I'm Darren Aquino. This is Johnny Pizza. And today we got a show, and you're going to hear from our guests. I know you can see them on the screen, but we don't talk about them until I'm done. So let's talk about Cold Wind Talk. We want to thank Sean, our very technical executive producer, part of Triple Vibes Radio, another entity in itself. But this comes to you because of the support of Code Media Group and Triple Vibes Radio and Calvin Nivius III and Sean, and everything that comes together here comes together. And we also want to say, because we're going to be talking about injustice together with justice, justice for all or justice for some. You all know I'm the National Chief Advocate for Disabled Americans, Veterans, Police, Firemen, and Families nationwide, in case everybody is a little confused what national means. We've been doing this for 36 years, and I've been helping fight the challenges for people with disabilities, 150 million in the country who have suffered the infringements of their life, liberty, and property. We're going to talk about that. Shannon, as you may
Wow.
you may remember Shannon's beautiful face from last week. Today you're going to meet some new people. We're going to call them right now. If they want to say their last names, we're going to say Joe and Ron because there are some things here today we're going to be talking about, and we're going to have Brenda. But let me just say this. Whatever we say here, we don't force anybody. We reserve the right. We, as a platform, this platform is for the people's First Amendment right and the challenges they face in America that may have been a constitutional infringement. That's what this floor is open to. To the challenge you had in court, some people get gag orders, and we have that situation here. But listen, we have a Constitution of the United States of America. There are gag orders that are respectively correct. But when you're denying a person with a disability to talk about their disability or any challenge, then I challenge that court or the authority therein. Because there is no authority greater than the Constitution of the United States of America. One nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. That is very important to me and all of our guests. So, but we don't, these are not pre-scripted. We take pride in that. Everything is what you hear now, live and true. Okay? We don't take any responsibility for anybody's statements other than the ones that we make ourselves. What we're told, it's based on belief that we hear. Their statements, each person here is responsible for what they say and project and want you to believe. We, on having this forum, we believe, based on their statements, that they're true and based on their character. So we open this forum to that and discuss that. And again, we also want to talk about Johnny. We are a little late today. So now today's version of Code Wind Talk is now the couch. So just kidding. Just kidding. So, we want to talk about John Frontangelo, and he's my co-host. I'm also known as the Cricket, the little guy whispering in his ear. And Johnny Pizza is a retired combat Vietnam veteran, a recipient of the Purple Heart and the Silver Star. And as I always say, we're going to get that Congressional Medal because of his valor above and beyond the call of duty, where he rescued 3 and then took the bullet and was shot in the line of fire. But he pulled out 2 successfully on the 3rd person. He went in courageously as a 19-year-old boy. Everybody visions a soldier as a man. And we don't know what that number or age is, but we picture them a big adult, a man. Although John, when you see The Last Goodbye, the book behind him, he was quite the man. He had a boy's age, but he had a huge man's like Lou Ferrigno body. So he wasn't your average soldier, but he was your courageous one that was fighting and pulling. He maybe pulled your son out. Well, we know he did. I just don't know who you are. But John was there, and he fought in Vietnam as we were directed by the state of our country and what the presidents negotiated to have that horrible war and to lose over 50,000 men. I don't know how to justify it, but we do know how to take care of our veterans, and we're not doing enough. So, I always like to give a tribute to Johnny and the appreciation and gratitude that we have for all our veterans, those who served in combat and those who were combat ready, because there is no difference. There are some that serve and some ready. Just because they didn't go doesn't mean they did not share the same character of their courage, ready and good to go. So we acknowledge them. We acknowledge those in law enforcement. One of our members here is a retired law enforcement. And let me tell you, in New York City, it was no picnic. Okay, I know Joe from New York City as a cop. And let me tell you, New York City is known for its crimes and its violent crimes. We have all kinds of levels of in our police department, like SVU, special victims. My friend Martha Mazzario worked in special victims. And we have victims all around the country, near, far, and abroad. So we want to recognize our law enforcement, our military first and foremost, because without them, freedom is a thought. Their duty every day is to preserve these liberties that we hold near and dear. That's why this is about injustice. And as we get into these stories, and Brenda, who is Ron's wife, she's going to tell this story because there is no gag to her. And but we want to hear about his childhood first. He has many challenges. They say that his life is compromised because he's waiting for kidneys. So today's show is very, very serious. You may be moved by it, you may not. I'm not the judge of that. What I do is I bring you the news. Okay? I do this for the people that their story will be told. That First Amendment right here, we have a high regard for it because it's one of our most important fundamental rights. And under the ADA, under the law, effective communication, it's the thing that we do, we communicate. There have been modifications because the second to our constitutional rights, which is the most comprehensive law that embraces and embodies the entire Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 of your constitutional rights that are most important. We refer to them as your fundamentals. And without your fundamentals, we might as well live in Russia or someplace else, another third world country. Our mission today is that you hear and we give ear to a story that you're going to hear from Ron and Brenda and Joe. And at the end, we'll tell you, they'll share their names, but we don't have to. You understand? My show, my rules. And that's how we roll here. And this platform was designed specifically for this. And our former guest, who's also Shannon Greer, Sela, okay? But when she's being professional, she wasn't born with Sela. She was born Shannon Greer. So it's her choice. So whatever her choice is, ladies first, she gets the choice. She gets to say if she wants to use her full name or just in her professional, in her capacity as a citizen and also as one of our newest advocates. Let me tell you, she's a very good study. Very good, very, very good. She works hard. She gets detail. She loves detail. She's very anal about detail. And she makes me know it. She's insistent on what it means. And she doesn't take a back step. And we love that because here's why. All of us need critiquing. We all need it. So without any further, we're going to thank, and we want to talk about John's book. John, talk about the book, where to go, because we always mess up dot crap. Let's talk about The Last Goodbye, and then I'll talk about CV19. Go ahead, John.
All right, this is the book, Last Goodbye. All right, you can go on thelastgoodbye-book.com. You get that, Darren?
I got it. Dashbook.com. I always go .-book.com. I don't know. It's just me.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, you can go on Code Media and you can get all the information and you can get it on Amazon also. And Amazon sells it for sale, so it's a good story. I mean,
it's more than a good story. See, he's just so modest. He's just so upright.
Humble.
Good word, Shannon. See, she's very adamant.
It's a story of heroism.
Yes, it is. It's a story of heroism, courage, and sadness, and loss, a tremendous loss.
I just
At
want to add,
such a
it's
young
not
age.
only not only my, let's say, heroism. It's many of my friends who performed a lot of heroic deeds. It's not only my story; it's a story about others, and the death of my cousin,
Thank
who,
you, sir.
who gave his life for the country.
Yes, he did, and we will never forget Anthony. And one of my jobs again um, is to make sure that our veterans, not now, not ever, will they ever be forgotten. Neither will they be pushed aside as yesterday's news, because there'd be no news without them. And we go back to the Civil War, cowboys and Indians. We did it all. That's why we're the great United States. When they show our symbol, they call it the Great Seal. That it is, because it represents our freedoms and what the founding fathers gave us. That it is now, when you're born as a citizen, they call it your inherent right. It was the legacy left for you as you were birthed into it. There are others who get that freedom by being naturalized in it. Um, and that's okay. My concern with that is when elected officials, and this is part of my campaign platform, that they shouldn't be. The president has to be American born. So should the House and Senate be American born, so that we stay to the ideals and dreams and values to keep America flourishing for America first. If you become a naturalized citizen, then you're part of the America first. But when you want to step outside that because you've been given a position of authority by we the people, then like Ilhan Omar would always sidetrack. And during this crisis now, and we're all going through COVID still, coming out of it, but I want everybody to know that Ilhan and a group of 15 others that were naturalized citizens said, let's give money to illegals first. Now we have homeless veterans here, homeless disabled veterans here. We have battered women, single in the streets with their children here. 14 million children go hungry every day. And during a crisis, how much more difficulty and challenge are faced to those who they gave us a national new name. We went from disabled to vulnerable. How much greater is their challenge? As an advocate, I don't have enough time on this show to tell you where and the whys and the whos and the hows. But I can say in the short time that we're here together, as we talk about injustice comes from this, putting the wrong people in the right job. You understand? The job is correct. Our Congress is responsible for the country moving forward. They've slowed it down for their political values and ideologies that step outside the scope of the Constitution. They use subterfuge.
Tell us about your COVID-19, Darren.
Yes,
Tell them about.
as I'm getting to that, and that's as we get to this medical portion, the CV-19 magazine is going to address our health care because of all the fundamental rights we have as an advocate, and why I preserve for Ron, Shannon, John, and many others that you are aware of, and those people who came forward and wanted their stories told, like another veteran we had out here who was hit by a car. CV-19 talks about healthcare. It talks about the state of our country, COVID America, and it's going to reach into lives, private lives, the public sector, lawyers, law firms, medical professionals, children's service professionals. Who was affected by COVID? Everybody. And it's going to extend month and in and out. And this magazine launches, finally, long overdue. We want to launch it sooner, but complications. And this magazine is going to be launched in New York City at the Taylor House on June 16th. And you can come. You can make a mention to us here, contact us, and we'd love to have you. because this is a magazine you want to know about. So as we move on with today's show, we're going to start off with Ron, and Ron's going to tell you his name if he wants, his full name. It's his freedom. It's his forum. It's his moment. It's now. Ron's going to tell you about him growing up and where he is today, his medical and physical challenges, and then he's going to introduce his wife, and Joe's going to come on, and they're going to. Brenda's going to be the only one to share some of what we call constitutional infringements. That's what I call them. That's what Shannon calls them now, and that's what John always calls them, because he served this country. So let us move forward. I'm Darren Aquino, and welcome to Code Win Talk. Ron?
Thank you, everyone. My name is Ronald Lee Ziegler. I like to be called Ron. When I get called Ronald, that means somebody's mad at me. And my nickname on the planet Earth is Ziggy. I've been called Ziggy since my first girlfriend back in the day in high school. I was born in Jackson, Michigan, where Ted Nugent lives. And I was adopted by my mother, Martha Ann Ziegler and Paul Ziegler. And my birth mother's name was Martha Ackley. So my name went to A to Z real quick. I found my birth mother, 15, 16 years ago. We went up to Fort Wayne, Indiana, where her story was that she was a 13-year-old child who had me. I was born in a cast iron tub due to an abortion, coat hanger attempt on my life, and she was very heartbroken about what she did to me and felt bad about me. And she says that's what caused my mental health throughout my life. And they wanted to find a perfect couple to take care of me, and they did. They found my mom and dad. And the lady, my birth grandmother, tried to abort me during birth because of reputation, because she was a school teacher, and my grandfather was a reputable radio announcer for 40 years in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they didn't want to have a 13-year-old unwed mother in the house. So they tried to abort me, and I ended up anyway. And my grandmother liked the name Paul because she had a friend named Paul who they met, and they were friends for a long time. And after I was adopted, I went to Franklin, Indiana. I lived there until I was 13. Between the ages of 7 and 13, I had a history of mental illness. They didn't know what was wrong with me. I had rapid mood swings. Back then, they didn't know what manic depression was. They didn't know what anything else was but emotionally disturbed. And that's what I was labeled as a teenager. And we lived up there in Indiana until I was 13, came down to Indiana to Florida. My dad was a TV repairman, and he worked on TV digital. And he retired from that and went to work for the city. And then during my childhood, I was very verbal, abusive towards my siblings, to my two brothers and my sister. And I was always wanting my mom's attention. I always wanted her attention 24/7. And my mom did her best to try to give it to me, but I was making their lives miserable during my teenage years as a result of mental illness. I suffer from bipolar schizoaffect as a result of it now. Back then, it was manic depression later on as a teenager. And I was diagnosed at the age of 17 with manic depression. And when I went to Florida, my mom had no idea what to do with me. So she put me in a program called South Florida State Hospital as Adolescent Learning. And I was in a group of kids, 36 of them, and we all had emotional problems. Some were sexually abused, some were abused verbally, and to the point where they had no life in society. And we were a group of misfit kids. And over the years, out of the 36, there's only 4 left. Over the years, they all committed suicide. And
Wow.
I'm still struggling through my mental health. When I was 7 years old, I fell through a glass door, cut my left arm. I have 172 stitches there. And then later on, at age 13, my mom didn't know what to do with me. So when I went into the program of South Florida State Hospital, I was I was tragically sexually abused by 4 inmates. They were 18, I was 13, and they beat the shit out of me, and I lost my teeth as a result of the abuse. And that was back in
You broke out for a second, Ron. You lost what?
I lost my teeth
Okay.
in a fight. I was beat up for sex, and they beat the hell out of me for sex. And I was 13. Four of them beat me up, and then a couple of guys came in and rescued me, and they said, "This is not what you do to people with sex. You do sex." And the guy, he had clowns all over his body. He was ill. He became one of my good friends, and he's still my friend to this day. And he's always told me I would always be a special lady, and I did. I met my wife Brenda, and I've had girls throughout my life, but I was tormented with sexuality for many years, and I still am. I still see a sex therapist, counselor. I go to psychiatry from health.
Ron, I want you to try and keep talking. Don't get away from the mic because you go in and out.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Darren.
I want people to hear you. I do have a question, though. I do have a question in between this sad and horrifying story. And I'm sure Shannon, as I'm watching my newest advocate with her great compassion and her faith, which is very important when you're an advocate, I'm watching her reactions. And when she reacts, let me tell you, it's 1,000 words for me because we don't get to always see each other, but we talk about laws. And I'm watching her be affected by your statements and the impact of you being imprisoned because your mother didn't know what to do with you. I'm troubled with that statement.
Well, it's not her fault. It's not her fault.
Their child.
You know, she was young and she didn't know what to do. She went to a school counselor who said,
Pull back so we can see your head.
Can you see me?
I can now. Yes.
Okay. She went to a school counselor who is now Louise Wexler, who is a retired congresswoman down here. And she told my mom about the South Florida State program. And so she decided to take me to the state hospital. And my mom and dad fought over it in an argument verbally because my dad was concerned about me going in there, and he had every right to be. He knew of stuff that happened back in the day with hospitals and what they do to inmates in there. And
okay. Hospitals, that confuses people. So let me clear what he's talking about is a state facility that's it's kind of like a prison for those with mental effect and impairments.
It's an institution.
Right. Mm-hmm. Back in New York State, back in the day, we had this place called Willowbrook for people with mental disabilities. It was the most horrifying place in the country's history where these children were left naked and in their own feces. It was horrifying. It went to federal court, and today the remaining children from there, I'm familiar with the case of that. They're under a protective injunction, and it's failing them still today. Mental illness and the services for mentally ill are the weakest that we have in this country, but we have the greatest technology, but we're struggling with mental illness that are taking 22 veterans a day. Okay.
We still have, and sorry to interrupt, but we still have abuse going on in our mental institutions today.
Well, yes, that's what I'm getting to, because
especially with children.
Especially with children, because they're pushed aside because there is no adequate help to coach the family, to see what other intervention would be more positive, because when we go to our constitutional fundamental rights, the life and the liberty portion is the most fundamental, because that's why healthcare, without healthcare, none of your other rights matter. Because if you're sick, what are you going to fight?
Yeah.
You understand?
So how did you meet Ron?
Excuse me?
How did you meet Ron?
Oh, you're asking me. I met Ron.
Well, actually, maybe Ron could say how we met.
I met Darren through Joe, and that's how I got to be friends with Darren, is through my buddy Joe, who's an advocate for people with disabilities.
Okay.
And he's also a retired NYPD detective.
Yeah, and he heard me.
Fratangelo. Okay.
No, that's Joe. John. Joe,
No.
you're gonna meet Joe.
Yeah, I'm here.
Here's Joe.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
Joe.
I haven't met you.
Former NYPD.
Okay, thank you.
And I met Joe on his talk radio show, and I was sharing him about my situation where I lost my parents' condo, but that'll get into that later on. But I was, after I went through this high school through mental health facility at South Florida State Hospital called Adolescent Learning Center. It was a hospital on state hospital grounds where I would go in and out as an inpatient. But when I acted out, my mom put me in there and overnight stay to get treated for my mental health. And I had a good psychiatrist named Ron Van Horn who took care of me and weaned me out of my situation. And he knew what I went through. And he
Weaned you out of your situation. What was that? What?
in the state hospital.
Yeah.
I was sexually abused. I was traumatized, and I was in the infirmary, and I was all beat up.
How old were you at this time?
Huh?
How
When
old
you're
were you?
13.
13 to 16.
You were abused in that period sexually.
Yeah, for 4 years, in and out.
Wow.
In and out.
By the other patients or by the staff?
Patients.
Any staff members violate you?
No, not at all. They were all more than helpful. They tried to help me out of my situation very quickly, and they finally realized what was going on, and they took me out of that environment. And a few of them I remained friends with. I just recently lost one. His name was Bob Franklin. He was a school teacher in that program, and he saved my life. He was a black school teacher. I fell. We went on a camping trip. We fell. Some idiot jumped out of a tree and scared me, and I went into cardiac arrest. So, and he saved my life. And his daughter is friends with me on Facebook, and I would tell her all the stories about how I tormented her dad by stealing his car, leaving the hospital grounds, using his debit card for lunch, and I did all kinds of crazy things with her. But he told me
my biggest concerns, Ron. One of my biggest concerns, because of the problem today, and other children born because of these so many mental effects. There are so many. Mental effect doesn't mean just mentally ill. It's a lot of the brain functions that limit people. And what I struggle with is here you go into a state facility that gets funding, both private and governmental. And how is it that a young teenager, 13 years old, can be violated by anybody in the facility? Where's the supervision? Where's the segregation that's needed? But most of all, where's the supervision? You know what I'm saying? So are people doing their jobs? Just because somebody was good to you afterwards, I'm concerned with how it happened, and it continuously happened.
Well, at night, Darren, at night, in the 1980s, at night, they would have this janitorial people run this state hospital when the teachers went home. And that's how the abuse happened. They just closed the doors, and it just happened.
There was no cameras in the rooms or anything?
Not back in the 80s.
In the 80s now.
No, not back in the 80s. And
in the 70s, there was no cameras. In the 70s at Willowbrook. But Geraldo Rivera did this story, and I met him and talked about it and told him that even today, in other facilities like nursing homes, subsidiary facilities were still violating their rights. And I had one case where the attendants in the facility, they never received one nickel of the $250 billion settlement. They were getting $15,000 per month for each patient, and the patients never saw one dime. I have a copy of the injunction release. Anna Passero, I'm still the advocate, and I'm going to go back and fight for the money I'm entitled that I lost for the 8 years I worked on her cases. And they kept just pushing it out. And the brother interfered, and it messed things up because you can't jump in and out. I had them almost settle with me, but greed and families, They don't, some people worry about more the money than the person's life.
Yeah, and then all
And,
through my life,
and all of the time and energy and work and financial expense it cost me for him to mess it up, I got to start all over. I mean, it cost me out of like over $150,000 throughout the years personally because of the injustice I didn't like in a state facility, then transferred to these little group homes where they hit her with a chair while she was 71. Hit her, the nurse hit her with a chair.
That's all.
She broke her hip. She fell on the bus. This was a person that went in as a child, young kid, into Willowbrook, and then the problems began. The systemic problem we have in our country is not racism. It's lack of good care. We have a society that 50% of the country is disabled from one condition or another. It's, in some cases, it's the nature of that person. Nobody chose to be disabled. It wasn't a choice. It wasn't first on your Christmas list. Hey, I'll take a disability. And that's why we have the most comprehensive law that addresses it. Still today, I spend my days trying to empower it nationwide, to empower the freedom that you inherited in your Bill of Rights. Shannon's going to talk about some of that, and then we're going to move to another chapter in your life, which these disabilities that were ignored or improperly treated, I would say, they were improperly treated. And I'm sorry that you had these feelings of abandonment because that's what you went through. It's there, it's clear, and everybody needs to know. Me and Ron talk a lot on the phone. I know this story. Brenda's going to tell another story, and Shannon has a story too. Here's somebody with a more milder disability, but protected. Her liberty was attacked for two reasons. She's a woman with a disability. She went into a place of public gathering, Ron. Public. Then the public in Kentucky go to this gun range to exercise their right of their Second Amendment to actually get in shape for it. You didn't see that show. And she was with her husband. They go in as a couple, like you would go with Brenda. And they decided to stop her and detain her because she had a mask exemption, like me, from the COPD. I don't wear a mask, and you're not going to make me wear one. The ADA is the assurance of the accommodation that if it prevents you, it has to interlock with the fundamental rights because it's got to recognize disability and inability to do it the manner in which they want you to do it and format it. The formatting must be changed, transferred to an accessible format for you, for me, for Shannon, and that's it. It's not negotiable. The negotiation is over. The 101st Congress in 1990 put it into the law by the signature of President George Herbert Walker Bush. Right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a copy of that proclamation that I got from Bush too, because of my long-standing work to fight for these civil liberties. Shannon went into this store, was detained, not told, when she refused. Let me say, she didn't refuse. She sought an exemption. A refusal to somebody's rules of the store is not the same thing, okay? But her asking, I got an exemption. She was never asked to leave. She would have left. She was asked in Walmart, and we went through this, okay? It's the wife of a veteran, and they're there together, served this country. No respect for that man's service and his wife to give the benefit of the doubt. Instead, and this was confirmed, and it was a joke to them because our star witness, Marlon, who will be on the stand, will testify that this arrest to her was not wearing a mask. That is, by definition, a Constitution violation by stopping the free air that we breathe in our right in a place of public accommodation. It now changes because it's open to the public, it now must adapt the ADA. It's not asking. If you don't, you are a facility that discriminates by your own definition and action. When you say to a person that has that is a qualified individual that you will not let them into your place because their condition prevents them from your fear, now you've crossed the line. But what they did with her, and I went through this story and investigated it, and we have a friendship as we develop, because that's how we come together, through communication. That's why it's so important to communicate. What we've learned is that their alternative motive was to let this case go through, was to turn it into trespassing. She neither trespassed or refused to leave. Now charged with trespassing is unjust. It's malicious, it's fictitious, and it's boldly untrue. Because she wouldn't wear a mask, police were called, and there was a whole bunch of bullshit to cover the ass of the violator of her constitutional freedoms, probably now humiliated knowing that the husband's a veteran, but they took it out on a defenseless woman. A woman. So that means they didn't respect her right as a woman, and they challenged her right as an American citizen, entitled under the ADA to be granted without commotion or question when she says, I have a disability exemption. They don't get to know what the disability is. What they get to do is say, well, I choose not to have you here. They can do that, but it's going to meet with civil litigation. And I teach folks how to do that, how to fight for themselves. That's why me and Ron talk. So I wanted you to know a little about her. So she's familiar, Ron, with injustice. And today's topic is injustice. Just again, we're brought to you live through Triple Vibe Radio, through YouTube and streaming and all that technical stuff that I have no clue about. I'm your host, Darren Aquino, the National Chief Advocate for Disabled Americans, veterans, police, firemen, and families. That means everybody, even the working man, because there was a need for it. I started that in 1983, 7 years before the Americans with Disabilities Act. My co-host, John Frantangelo, is a combat Vietnam veteran who suffered attack and gunshots, and he was wounded severely in the defense of the beliefs of our country in Vietnam as a 19-year-old boy. And during that time, his cousin, a family together, which is not, oh, you didn't always hear. You heard a lot of that in the Civil War. That's why that letter from Private Ryan that was read by that captain was actually from Abraham Lincoln to the mother of the 5 sons.
Wow.
It was from Abraham Lincoln. And, we've had good leaders and bad leaders, but the law is the law, and that's all there is to it. The problems that we face today are judges that are not compliant to the rules. They use their discretion abusively. I know that firsthand. We've seen it, but this judge in her case, and the reason I'm stepping to the abuse of discretion of judges is because I know of his case, and it's disgraceful. Putting a bracelet and locking down, this is disgraceful. Now I'm going to talk about that, and we're going to have Brenda. Ron, you want to say anything else before
Darren,
we?
I want to ask Ronnie a question.
Go ahead.
Ron,
Go ahead.
Ron,
Yes.
you said you were there 4 years, from 13 to 16 of the age,
Yeah.
13 to 16.
13, 14,
Now-
15, yeah.
16, right. Now, what took them so long to take action of your getting physically abused? Did they not believe you at the beginning, or what?
They didn't believe me at the beginning, and to the second year and the third year went on, and then the fourth, finally the other 2 inmates were moved out of the hospital, and the last 2 inmates, one passed away, and then the other one got terminally ill with AIDS, and he eventually died. And after I got released from the program, I went into regular high school with a lot of emotional problems. Following me because I didn't want to talk about my sexuality at the time. And And now that I have a beautiful wife, she knows everything about me, and she loves me even more for being honest about sexuality. And I love my wife dearly. I met her 22 years ago on my birthday and told her she was mine. So, and another thing, school teachers and counselors, God bless them, because every time I was in trouble, they came to my aid. God bless them for their therapy and their counseling and their teaching abilities to teach. If we didn't have teachers, I wouldn't know what to do today, or counselors for that matter. Counselors have basically saved my ass.
We are clearly thankful for the many creditable and dedicated teachers and providers out there. I know my own wife has been a service provider to special needs children for 40 years. Early intervention for the kids that, in the struggling ages of 1 and 2 years old. And autism is a condition that we, all of a sudden it appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, and out of all the trauma that I've been through, I love my mother and father dearly. I did some artwork, sold some paintings, and I sent my mom some birthday flowers for her birthday on May 1st.
This mother is the adopted mother?
Yeah, she's my adopted mother, and I did some, my father, and their anniversary is coming up on May 26th. They've been together 59 years.
But you've had some challenges with the adopted mother, isn't that right?
Yeah, vindictive personality towards my mental health, but it's not her fault. That's my part. That's my fault.
Yeah, but we had this discussion yesterday, Ron. You can't take blame for everybody.
I know.
You have a disability, and you were adopted, and it was early onset. There was an early onset of this mental illness, and it needed care. It needed care, but most of all, whether you're an adoptive, well, sometimes adoptive parents, maybe jump into something too soon, or when you adopt a child, and helping disabled adoptive children, I had events for foster children. Bush sent a bunch of stuff. FedEx. I never knew anyone that got a FedEx from the White House but me. I had a FedEx overnight express mail from the president.
Wow.
With these little packets with Air Force One. They have like a kids thing. And he got it there overnight for 150 disabled foster children that I had in my backyard with actors from the TV shows that I worked on. And I had some of them call in to embrace these kids. But you see, the challenge, when you take on, I always wanted to adopt a special needs kid because I knew more. I'm compassionate more. Some people take it because there's two advantages. If you take a special need and like be a foster parent, they give you a nice amount of money to take care of them. Problem with that is they're not thoroughly screened. These are the facts. This is where injustice is not only for adults, it is for children with disabilities as well. And it's out there. And I've witnessed it. So that's why when you were a child and you had this condition, it's very important that person. So, you told me the mean things that she's done. I can't agree with that's okay. It's not okay, Ron. It's not okay. Because today you suffered, and part of this thing she's responsible for. That's a greater injustice when it's the stepmother. See, Shannon, they didn't hear that yet, but we're gonna let Brenda tell that truth. I know it's hard for you because we spoke about some of the questions, and you wanted me to roll here. You told me to do this, so it also helps you mentally and emotionally because once it's off your chest, it's no longer buried inside you. And that's a good start. So I want Brenda to tell about the things that with your property, you lost property that you acquired from the things that you love, like Star Trek, and we talked about celebrity figures and how you acquired a bunch of signatures and memorabilia, and that was stolen from your property, and your mother was complicit with that, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Okay, Brenda, we're going to let Brenda tell because I want Brenda to tell how that happened because I don't want you to get over emotional there, but I want everybody to know that the mother who adopted you is responsible for a lot of these things going on.
Okay. Also,
That's true, right?
Yep, that's very true. Yep.
Okay.
I also did writings. I also do writings on mental health on Facebook, and I do abstract artwork. All right, here's my wife, Brenda. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ron. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Darren. How you doing?
Doing good. We're so happy you're with us. Say hi to the gang here.
Hi, Brenda.
Everybody.
Hi. Take a seat,
Brenda.
relax, and let's chat for a while. Sit on the couch. Come on, sit on the couch. Come on, sit down. I know you have a lot to tell us. We had a brief discussion about this, and I know it affects you because the adoptive parent, and I don't take this lightly. There are great parents. There are great adoptive parents. There are bad parents that are natural parents, and there are bad parents that are adoptive parents. And my assessment of this wickedness that Ron went through, we're talking wickedness, took a house from underneath him in the state of Florida. You cannot evict anybody. You cannot throw anybody out of their place, even if you own it. You have to evict them. She didn't do that with him, and she made sure all of his properties worth an excess of $250,000. He was paying for the condo. She took it right from underneath him. That's not a loving mother. That's not a loving adopted mother. And Ron, I know he wants to feel, but we have to see the truth. And in that truth, they just played on his mental illness. The things, and his mother told him if he made a report against the woman that sold it, she would make it worse for him. So I'm not feeling any, some motherly love there. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. I'm seeing otherwise. And I know Shannon and my own self and my own mother, and they would never do things of this thing. When Shannon hears this, she's going to be floored. So, Brenda, take it away.
Yes, Ron, he basically had no problems with any neighbors. And the neighbor he had the friction with, basically his mom believed everything she said. And she was making up false lies about Ron, saying he did things in his complex, like vandalize her car and vandalize.
Okay, Brenda, go back a little bit because nobody knows things. Talk about the thing describe the thing you're talking about. What happened?
Well, he had a neighbor that moved in, and she would stop his friends. And when they were coming to his house, she'd stop his friends and say, "Why are you friends with Ron? He's a bad guy. And you shouldn't be friends with him," and stop them in the middle of the hallway and try to deter them from being Ron's friend. And she did this to several of his friends. And then she got more and more vicious. And then she claimed he did things to her by vandalizing her car. And then she would call the police and make police reports.
And what resulted from these police reports?
Well, the main thing is the police were kind of taking her side. And Ron was trying to say that she was doing things to him, and resulted to that he got arrested and thrown out of his house by his mom, this neighbor, and the lady that he let him rent from him. They all got together and they got the police involved, and they got him thrown out of his house.
And his mother was the key factor in that, getting him removed?
Yes, she was a key factor because she believed everything that the lady neighbor said. And she kind of like, since Ron was paying her for the condo, but she was in her name, so she kind of instigated the whole process.
And she sold the condo and got the money back, is that right?
Yes,
Not all of it.
she didn't get all of it back, but she got most of it back.
But it was Ron's money that was paying for it, right?
Yes, it was Ron's money out of his earnings from SSI.
Right.
had funded the maintenance and paid for the condo the whole 24 years that he had lived there.
And then she took that away. The mother
Yeah.
orchestrated that. It looks to me not so much she planned it, but it looks like an opportunity for her to again throw him away into another facility when he was an adult man. I think after having many discussions with Ron and brief discussions with you, he was arrested, and the case is still going on, right?
Yes, it's still going on. It's been in the court system for 4 years. She keeps pleading that Ron's continuing to stalk her and harass her and go into her car and break into her house. And she continues to say that he's coming after her. And
she suffers from mental illness, isn't that correct?
yes, she suffers from schizophrenia, and she's claimed that she hasn't taken her medicine for many, many years, and says that it makes her sick, but she always has claimed that she hasn't taken her medicine for several years.
So he's in a court case for like 4 years now, right?
Correct.
They did things like put an ankle bracelet on him. And this is like, what do they got this down? Aggravated harassment?
Yes, it's aggravated stalking. It's
Aggravated stalking
Yes.
by another accusing another disabled person who's, Ron has some serious health issues now, does he not?
Yes, his kidneys are failing. He also has some heart conditions, and he has diabetes on top of it. But his kidneys are very bad. He only has one working kidney, and he's on dialysis 3 days a week for 4 hours a day. And he just
how long has he been going through this with his kidneys? How long?
He's been going through 3 months now. He's been taking dialysis for 3 months. And
kidney failure doesn't happen overnight.
No, he's had kidney failure for about 5 years now. He's had kidney failure for about 5 years. It just slowly deteriorated to the point of going to have to take dialysis for the last 3 months. But he's going on a list for a transplant because both kidneys are failing, but they went and they saw that only one kidney needs to be replaced, but he is on a transplant list to have that kidney to do a transplant. And his other kidney is the one kidney is completely gone, and he's on the list for a transplant.
There's been some talk that they don't think he's going to survive health-wise. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. They gave him a diagnosis about 5 years ago that he wasn't going to make it, and if he doesn't get a transplant within a year, that he might not make it even till no more than a year.
Yeah, they say that even
his next birthday, they said he won't even make it to his next birthday if he didn't get a transplant.
I've heard that, and I've heard that sometimes because we've already pre-discussed some of these things. These are not our own written questions or anything. These are prior discussions to see if they wanted to talk. They wanted to share these thoughts and concerns because of the ridiculous aggravated stalking by two people with disabilities, clearly mental effect disabilities. But Ron's are far worse because it puts a lot of physical limitation on, such as the kidneys and the heart condition and the diabetes, and that limits walking and getting around. It's sometimes impossible to do some of the things that this person is suggesting that he did and is regularly doing still. And I'm troubled with that. I'm troubled with where's justice There is no justice in here. And then to stop his liberty, on such a minor charge, to stop his liberty um, is clearly constitutional because there was no violence here. There was no past history. Ron has no past history of beating anyone, or in fact, he's been a victim most of his life. It would be fair to say, but there are very, very struggling chances. Even when you get a transplant and the kidneys are gone, and I spoke to the best doctors, the kidneys, you maybe get 7 years after that, depending on when you catch it. That's the key. When you get the transplant, and waiting long, and the fact that this case is even still going on is just horrendous, and we just can't see, and the things that you're both going through, and her continued lies even today, and to place a gag order on him. They don't put gag orders on cases that matter.
How can we help? What can we do? What is our role? What are the things that you're looking for?
He just needs people behind him that will support him and have belief in him that he is, because he's had no priors before, that support that he's telling the truth, because Ron is an honest person and he is telling the truth, that he needs people to back him up and just kind of say, Ron, you're doing okay, keep up the good work, because he is a very honest person. And these accusations that she's coming across with and saying that he's done things that he's done to her are unfounded. So he just needs people in the disabled community to stand by him and support him.
Go ahead, Sharon.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead, go for it.
You need a larger community of support. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, he does. He needs a larger community of support, because he's got this. He needs more backing from disabled Americans to show that in his disability that he's still a truthful person and still can get through this with help from the group of disabled people.
Okay. And he has a Facebook page. Does he have a following because he has an art interest and he does art, and
he has an art page. He has. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. He has an art page. He has an art page, and he has a podcast that he does regularly, about once a week, and he has 2,000 followers on his art page, which is very popular.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. But he can't, so I understand he can't go into, because of the gag order. That's probably why they want the gag order in place, is because they know he's got a pretty strong following, that if he were to go and I'm just putting pieces together here, that it wouldn't look good on them if all of his followers and supporters suddenly showed up for his public hearing and listened in and flooded the courthouse with all of their Zoom interests by saying, we're here because we are interested parties in the case against Ron. And if it's it should be a public, there should be public hearings because it's in a public courthouse, right?
Well, yeah.
So they should have access because it is a public system. And if he has a following, then it would seem to me that there should be a court order that could challenge the gag order, because they're basically muzzling.
Let me get in here for a second with that.
Joe, sit down and introduce yourself, Joe.
My name is Joe. Everybody knows me as Joe. I'm the last name Goldner. I'm known here in South Florida based on the media as the corruption fighter slash investigator slash bounty hunter because of what I've been doing. But what's happening with Ron and stuff, the gag order is specifically designed for us to prevent us from verbally attacking what they call the victim. Has technically has nothing to do if I'm what I'm doing. They just don't want me and Ron to basically intimidate or harass so-called victim. Then eventually we got the order on both sides. But as far as a open season, really, but Ron's got to be careful when he speaks. Brendan does too, just in case it ends up in a situation as a setup. Because down here, Broward County is very corrupt in the judicial system. I can tell you straight up that the two judges involved in this case initially have been suspended and probably in jail by now. If not, they will be. There is a federal investigation going on. That's as far as I could go into without going past that because it's ongoing.
That's good news.
Right? There is other things going on with that. But Ron art is what's his art is where his ability to express himself is through his writings and his art. And he's got and his writing, especially through Twitter, is getting big support through various entertainment people.
Wow.
Of course,
I'd love to see his art. I would love to.
And that's how Gerald McGraney and all the others.
But are they verified? Are they verified followers? Are these entertainers verified through social media?
Some of them are because I double checked them and I know
but I mean, they had the verified blue mark because when I got mine, they had to put basically a microscope up my butt to make sure I was that guy. Yeah. I have Facebook. And
yeah, the blue check. Yeah, we know the blue check.
Exactly. Right, but that's verified. And because you have a lot of people that fake it out there and they say that they're famous people. You know?
Right.
This guy up in there that I knew wasn't, but there are some that are, and he's
bring the camera up this way in front of you. We're looking up at you again. Come up in front of the camera.
Well, I always look.
There you go.
That's the old NYPD thing.
I know you try to put us down there. You know what I mean?
You know what it is.
Exactly.
Okay, keep going. I want to hear more.
All right. As far as the legal aspect, the only one that's actually stalking is the so-called victim. In fact, we all got to this show. We all got death threats not to show up on the show.
You got what?
We got threats to prevent us from being on the show.
Is that right?
Is it? And these are documented. You're able to document.
Yeah, we documented. They don't understand what computers and ISP and all that stuff is, so we could backtrack it. And because I'm involved, and it doesn't take too long to figure it out. But
it leaves a footprint. Everyone leaves a footprint.
In Ron's case, in Ron's situation, they literally are invading his privacy.
Wow.
And so they are literally going into and stealing his identity, cyber theft.
So he's got cyber theft going on, and this is all because now you got to remember, everybody, his disabilities.
His identity was in his house when he got taken out.
You know, his abilities is the problem.
Who was that talking?
And they're using his disabilities as a means to go after him, and it may not be one. It's actually a group of people involved with that one person, and that's what it's in.
Okay.
And that's creating problems and between. They're literally trying to harass individuals into going, turn his friends around and everything else.
And this could happen to anybody.
Right. Anyone with disabilities. it happen. And
Yeah.
mental health is a very big issue around the country.
Yes.
We are not focused on that. Most of the mass shootings in this country over the last few years are mental health issues.
Yes, they are. That is correct.
Yeah.
And we need to focus on that. Plus, law enforcement, which I'm part of, we have to recognize and learn how to handle different type of mental health issues so we don't kill these people. We need to be able
Exactly.
to
Yes.
work and
Yes. We've had a killing here in Kentucky of a mentally ill individual who wanted to see his children, and he was shot by the police and left to die and bleed out.
Okay, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to stop you both there. As an advocate, the things that inspired me to move on, two things. Law enforcement, Joe will tell you, if you kill yourself, you're not getting your benefits.
Right.
Nothing. Your family gets nothing. When I learned about that from a mutual friend, Martha, and I was at Rios's funeral. There was the Spanish kid that killed himself after 7 years on the job. 7 years on New York City Police Department. You could have many challenges. You could be encountered with a kid that comes out of an alley with a gun, and your instinct and training, it doesn't turn out good. And the officers got to bear that. That's PTSD, in my opinion, as an advocate, an expert. That is a qualified factor. So before the officer took his life, he was a qualified individual, and he was more than entitled to his benefits, because here's why. Here's the law. I'm telling you the law. You must have a condition that lasts 12 months or longer or result in death. How about now? It resulted in death from mental illness, PTSD, and the cop didn't get it. I went off on this when Kelly was commissioner, when Bloomberg, I wanted to help make changes. When Eric Gardner got killed, there are obvious signs of a person with a disability that when you approach, you could take certain restraints. I said, listen, one of the things I wanted to do for NYPD was to be their advocate, both the police officer's advocate and the disabled person's advocate. Why? Because the cops don't have one. The PBA is not their advocate. Do you understand? When they're in the line of duty, they need to understand they have a limited training, which it's insufficient, because they're not doctors. They're not supposed to be doctors. They're supposed to be out there to protect and serve. When you
we need some reform.
Hold on. When you put them in front of a mentally ill person, now the challenge is greater, because they're there to protect and serve, and you've confronted them with a situation that could present harm to them. Now, my methods and the design I wrote and drafted, that Chia wrote up, that I sent to the outgoing commissioner before they put Shea in. De Blasio's a jerk. Governor Cuomo's a jerk. And Bill, he knows me. He's responsible for the death of these police officers. He's responsible for the ridicule. As you know, if a cop has got an issue, okay, and this is really important with the PTSD, he's not going to talk about it to the brother officer. He's not going to do it, because even Martha told me there's ridicule that they'll face. You understand? So there's no peer help. So one of the things, that's right. One of the things I designed, and I'm going to say it here and now, one of the things I designed, I wanted them in a group. Now, they always partner up. The partners are not allowed to go to these before tour meetings that last about a half hour. They're like builders, emotional builders, aside with another program I was going to add with it, because it helps them deal with the everyday stresses. The partner, when they go into these meetings, they're like AA meetings, but it talks about mental illness, and everyone in there is like a Jane and John Doe. Your partner cannot be there with you, just as, for the both immunities that you both have, because you go at different meetings. You're never, ever, and nobody, you're there just to talk. Because why? Most mental illness with the PTSD is about venting, right? It's got to vent.
But you have those services. I was on the fire department. I know that they offer them to us there. Don't they do that for?
They don't do that for NYPD. They didn't. The mayor's tried to bring something after I addressed it, but it was no good. New York NYPD cares. That's bullshit. That's not
Can
going
I
to work.
ask- Can I ask you something, Darren? Why do they not want the partner to be there?
No, I don't want the partner to be there. Why? Because the stigma, knowing details from having family on the job, and Joe will tell you, we don't want to put them. We want to give an immunity to each of them, because say the partner's suffering and the other one's not, but
Ron,
they got to go. So neither of them will know, and there can't be a
you
stigma.
wouldn't
You
like
understand?
Ron. You
Here's why: because they are all going, and they can't single out anybody. Do you understand?
Yeah.
it would be like would you want your mom to be there if you talk to a counselor?
No,
Right.
no.
Sort of like that.
Okay.
Sort of like that,
No.
because your
All right.
partner
So your partner is really
is
close
very
to
close to
you. You share everything. What if you have some issues that relate to him and you can't
it's
talk
gonna also
fully?
it's also going to cause fear in it, because you're working together. So the
Yeah.
difference is here. My strategy was good, and even
But
the commissioner
I'm gonna be the devil's advocate and say that I could see
Right.
where if they know that you're gonna go into a counseling session, and you're going without your partner then might be
Okay,
worried.
you see, because you missed the beginning. Here's why. That's why they all go. So all of them have this stigma, and then it makes this stigma go away. You understand? Because they're all going. You understand? The point is they can't be together, though. You understand?
Yeah.
So with Joe, is that reasonable, Joe? Is that something that would you could see would work, or would there be some
Okay,
issues?
this type of program will work here in Broward County. We have a lot of situations here in Broward County with mental health issues.
She's referring to
Actually,
the MIPD, my suggestion and plan for that, not for the tranquilizers that I wanted to do for mentally ill and different restraints.
but
She's talking about the stigma with the PD.
So what is
like with Ron's case and stuff like that. If I didn't go in and start working on the case and going in on his health, his kidneys and everything else, he would still be in mental health court for at least another 2-3 years. They want to keep him.
And what?
They want to keep him in the mental health court before he did anything else for at least 5 years. I went in and got the doctors together and went into the court system because at the time I was running for sheriff anyway, so I was the officer of the court. I was able to get in there, and I used that power to actually go into the court, into the judges, and actually show everything what's going on with him. And the judge involved moved him out of the mental health court and put him into the criminal court. And then they were going to move him over to the misdemeanor court, which they did, and they got the bracelet off, but he would still be going through the system. Now they're in the final stage of the case, which I can't get into, but they're trying to run the clock out,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
what for his health. And right now, because of the corruption in Broward County, from the state attorney's office to Broward County court system, and the law enforcement in some cases around here, case should not even gone into court, but
They can't run the clock. They can't run the clock.
Trying to, and they're stalling on negotiations to get free.
But I know that's the theory that all of you believe, including Shannon. They can't run the clock. You understand? The clock doesn't start until it's done. The clock. The only thing here, the only clock they messed with is his due process.
Exactly.
But the clock doesn't begin until he goes to federal court. When this is over, then the clock starts ticking.
Well, there is federal case. There is a federal case pertaining to the real estate scam, and that is actually
Ron didn't tell me he had. I told him he had to go to federal court because it falls under property.
I can tell you this part up to a point. The one that's involved with the real estate scam, we knew all about it, but we couldn't do much about it because of the corruption here in Broward County. The minute she went to her family, where she long lived in North Carolina, it was a good omen. That made the fellow, because she left state lines, made the fellow case. At that point, we were planning on doing something. So at the time, I also was working with Trump, and we knew there was a Trump rally coming in her location. So what we did was, when the feds were working with Trump, we took the
I can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the FBI part that we had agents there. So instead of just guarding Trump at that rally, what we did was we went over and arrested the other party involved in the scam. She didn't know what's coming because we hid it, and we did it that way because she'll run otherwise. And when
Wow.
by the time she got into the car, she gave up everybody.
Wow.
How we knew from point A to point B to point C. And that's something we did, but I can't get the details. I can't get too much details by that because of ongoing fellow case. But
Okay.
that's how we got to her. And
That's hopeful.
Okay,
That's,
you're talking about
very
federal.
hopeful.
You're talking about a federal criminal case.
right, there's a real okay. There's a real estate scam that's involved. That's involved in Ron's case, but Ron's
Yes.
case itself is separate. Is what she's going on with the what is the gag order? This is not the gag order. This is a separate case that's taken from his case.
Wow.
And that's because this is not the
Yes.
first time this person did the scam. This is a real estate scam involving a number of people, including Ron's mom and someone else. And
Wow.
and attached to that, and it's going to explode in the
The
next few weeks.
conspiracy.
Right. This is all part of the fact that they did not want Ron to have his condo and the stuff and everything else.
Well, because
So-
his mental illness,
Right.
there's been a larger problem that's been going on for several years out of Rockland County up in New York and around the small other states.
So wouldn't this be a 1983 Section 1983 claim as well, Darren?
Well, depending, if the state did not give him a due process and they took his property like they did with my house and they let a bank come in and you're not in that hearing, now the state is, what did you suffer? No due process and property, life, liberty, and property.
ADA, 14th Amendment as well, right?
Oh, right. Well, okay.
Discrimination.
We didn't get there yet. You see, you don't get to the discrimination part until he's deprived something. You
But
see, you can't.
But Darren's right on. Darren is 100% correct, and he's heading in the right direction. That's how NYP thoughts. We're back in the same way. But
I can't hear you.
okay, what Darren is saying exactly on point. It's back in our NYPD thinking, but the point is, it's involving a lot of different things, and we're kind of stuck until he's the end of this case because part of it. It's the condo.
Yeah. See, what he didn't get absolutely was no due process.
Exactly.
Okay? That's what he didn't get. So that is a Sixth Amendment violation and a 14th Amendment. How? Because he had no access to bring a case.
So
No
how
access.
about the jurisdiction? Should be a
Well,
court of
jurisdiction
original
the jurisdiction 1980 claim is within the state because why? There was, you see, this is where it goes a little bit narrow, where the judges in federal court say it's narrow because show me where they denied you a disability right that hindered this. So you see, when we draft, this is what I try and show you, is you see, when we're drafting, with me, if I go on site, okay, I go to the computer, okay, I'm dyslexic, right? Let's say Ron has no arms and he has no prosthesis, right? Now, he gets online because he can talk his computer to the site, but the site has no access Now that's one count of action in the county. That's one. That's the first count. He has no communication to get to say, help me, I'm a disabled person, you took my house. He's got to then go to the court. The claims don't begin until the denials and affording those protections are not provided. You understand? So we started one because it's property. Do you understand? His property is a civil right. It's your life, liberty, and property. Not having to do process and in a state court makes that state responsible.
But he was also detained and arrested and held.
Well, then those go to county too, because the state didn't hold them. The
His
local Broward
freedom.
police held them. So those people get charged. The jail, remember I told you with the jailer is not the same as the sheriff. Corrections and police, they're two different
They
entities.
may all be under one fiscal government agent, however,
Right,
just like
but
in
when
mine
you
with
sue-
fiscal courts.
But when you sue them, you got to sue them by their name. The entity will be sorted out.
You can sue a county government.
Yes, you can. You could sue a
there are
municipality. You
regulations.
could sue, yes, state, local, and federal, and municipal, which means the local sheriff. Do you understand? Nobody's exempt from the ADA. Nobody. No entity, no government employee, nobody. Because if they're acting in their official capacity, right, to deny you, you understand? That's why it's government. You
But
see,
we
because
haven't-
government is an entity for the people to enjoy and to manage the rights of the people. So where disabled are concerned, they don't enforce the mandates that make it enjoyable for people with disabilities.
So the ADA would be included in a broader Civil Rights Act, which has not been filed, correct, Joe?
No,
No.
but the
So you're
civil,
just now,
the civil part hasn't started officially yet because Scott Newmark.
The state case has to be finished.
Yeah, his criminal case has to be finished. Scott
does
Newmark,
it,
it will take
Yes,
that.
it does.
The ADA, American with Disabilities Act, will be a major part in the legal action because his
The
due
civil federal action.
right. His
if they're proceeding civil rights cases that have already ruled in this similar matter, then it doesn't have to be completed in the criminal case. It can be submitted for
If there were
consideration.
unreasonable restrictions that caused harm. A restriction is a form of harm.
Well, an arrest
like liberty.
is an ankle bracelet, a restraint, and that way is a
Yes, it is. It is a restraint because it limited his activity.
and
But
he
yeah,
had-
count.
He had that ankle bracelet on.
but
like
it's removed now.
And it finally got off, but it took a lot of work and his health deteriorating and a lot of push by and myself. And they finally
God, they
got.
threatened his life.
That's the damages. That's the after from failing. That's the failing. That's the failing for providing
that's
necessary and warranted
An
accommodations. that
infringement on
resulted-
civil rights.
Well, yeah, because it resulted in harm. The deprivation resulted in harm.
The thing is, you got to remember, with Ron's case, this is happening to him. Doesn't mean it's not happening to many others.
Oh God, no. I
It
think it should have stayed and been dissolved in mental illness court.
should
That's where it should have began, and that's where it should have ended.
The judge in that case mentioned in court, because I was there, that he had no authority to take the bracelet off or dismiss the case. He has to refer to the criminal judge to do that.
How
That's
do
what
you have two courts though? If one shifts it over, then it's reliant on the next, because
That's
judges can't
jurisdiction.
huh?
That's jurisdiction.
I don't know, but the point is,
You can't share jurisdiction and say, okay, you got to have two trials. That's like double jeopardy. You can't do that. You can't have two judges here. Okay, well, I didn't like his outcome, so let's go to the mental illness court. If you're in the mental illness court, the mental illness court has got to shit or get off the pot.
he's literally got three judges in a chamber with both lawyers discussing for the last 3 weeks how to handle this case. Three different judges. The
It
judge,
needs to be referred for judicial review to a higher court.
yes.
Appellate court, yeah, on a mandamus. You could mandamus in state courts, by the way, Shannon. Just so you know that.
Yeah,
You don't
well,
mandamus doesn't only
It
apply.
needs a request for judicial review.
Yes, so that's but what you missed at the beginning here is the corruption there. 2 judges were arrested. They're not about to go judicial review.
But it goes to a higher.
there's now a third judge that is being suspended and arrested by the governor DeSantis down here, involving with the mask case in Plantation. That judge has been gone.
With what? Involved with what? Say that again.
There is a case that Governor DeSantis just suspended and might have fired a judge on the mask because he
They
had
didn't
a
say that in the news.
On the mask, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't say. I've got it right here. It says in Broward County, ICANN supported the defense of 2 individuals who were cited for not wearing a mask, and the attorneys that regularly represent ICANN, that's Siri and Glimstad,
Right.
appeared at.
I know the people involved.
Yeah, I went to them and asked them to help me in mine, and they said that they couldn't do that. And then I saw this, and I asked them, can you please? So can you get me that? Can I get that court briefing? I need it for my case. But yeah, they don't mention that they fired that judge.
That judge,
the public record.
third judge that'll be gone in a matter of weeks. But the thing is,
Praise the Lord.
Anthony Sabatini, who's running for Congress, he's been for the last year and change with the mask. He's been suing left and right out there. That's another one.
What is his name again? What's his name again?
Anthony Sabatini.
Yeah, he's running for
Okay.
I think I've sent a message to him and I didn't get a reply back.
He is running for
He's
Congress.
a candidate. Anthony reached out to me.
He's running for Congress because he's running for the seat that's going to be new, and because we added one more seat of Congress here in Florida because of the census. He's running for that.
I'm going to push out Mario Diaz-Balart because he took the seat without an election.
That may be.
It's funny. He
So-
took that seat and it messed up my seat, and they wouldn't let me run in that 25th district. And they just put him in without an election or a primary.
And the idea with Ron,
Put your face back in the camera, Joe.
excuse me?
Put your face back in the camera.
Okay, Ron's case, he should not have, if this was done properly, it should have been held at the management corporation of the condo. They could have moved one over the other and should never have gone into court. This was a tit for tat case. This is a case that people knew certain people and able to get
Another case of nepotism.
Yeah, basically, look, when you live in a condo, when the wall is separated by, when you have the two units are separated by a thin paper wall, basically, we can hear each other doing things, and I don't mean clean things. But the point is, there's no way in hell you could get a restraining order or sorts because it gets violated immediately because you hear one each other. And in this case, the judge involved knew that. She actually was a client of the other person, and their favors for it. And they went from one judge to and who's a friend of another judge, and they spread it up. And what normally would never happen happened based on a quid pro quo, and that's how the two judges have been gone because of that. The question is, will the so-called victim in this get charged criminally, felony? Well, because it is a felon, which she did. Will she get charged for it? They may just push it under the thing, you know. They hide it. It's a good old voice.
Who is supporting you in this show? Who is helping you?
Who's helping me? Scott Newmark. I got a group here, actually, but Scott Newmark is pretty good at it. Darren Aquino, of course, and many others. Because I also was running for sheriff, and I got a lot of support there. Ron with his publicity on his own, but he has to be quiet because of the quid because of the not quid, but
The gag order.
the gag order. My apologies. Sometimes it is.
Okay.
I'm going to hold him back a little bit, but he does.
I can't. There's some noise going on in the background there. I'm not sure
Yeah,
where.
we actually have an office here that's been busy, and so we're working, as you can hear in the background.
Back up so your face is seen, Joe, because all we see is your nose.
Well, I hope it's not that good. But anyway.
It's the whole screen. Now go ahead.
Okay. Anyway.
Closer.
Ron, with his art, is doing great on that. He's expressing himself, his writings and stuff like that. He does have a following. He's in the art page. He's got over 2,000 pages. He just started his podcast. He's got like 135 followers so far in the podcast.
That's awesome.
I also do my podcast. I got almost 1,000 people there.
Okay, give us that information. How do we follow you guys?
Okay, you can follow me on Joe Goldner. My name is my Facebook page. It's my LinkedIn page.
Spell it. Joe, Joe, Gold, Gold.
NER.
NER, Goldner.
Follow me there.
Facebook.
Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter.
LinkedIn, Twitter. Okay.
Telegram is very big now because you can talk directly to people like Ron DeSantis and others. We're not saying that. This prevents the censorship.
Yeah, I'm on Telegram. I'm there, but it was a big thing before, and I'm getting LinkedIn calls now. I mean, it was big during the shutdown and the censoring on Twitter, and they did that to silence America's president, Donald Trump.
They're still on, and they're
trying. They're still going. They're still going strong, but people are going back to their old format. That's what we do in America. You understand? We don't hold the line like we should. We don't stay consistent. What we do is we there for a while. Then that's what they try to do. They try to outlast us.
I will tell you this.
Give up sooner.
I will tell you this. If they try to indict Trump in the political job, and if they bring an indictment on the political hit job, we here in Broward County, and I think the state of Florida will ignore it and just rip it up because it's not real. It's a political hit job.
Oh yeah. In my federal case, and they suppressed the disabled voter because it's a very strong vote. They knew if Darren becomes the congressman, Donald thought I was going to win. The president thought I would win. Everybody thought I would win because of my percentage rate. I was in Miami. I was with the mayor, and I was doing my thing. I was 3 weeks into the race. I was at 18%. On primary day, I come in at 1.25%. That's bullshit. We all know it.
I've seen that happen in Broward County with Tim Canova running as an independent. He was averaging about 6 to 8%, maybe more. We averaged like between those things. The Republican would beat Debbie. He came in under 3, and Debbie won again. Look,
let me tell you, though, some of the Republicans allowed to use that dominion because those are good old boys saying, okay, we'll play this because they're looking at the big picture, but they're maintaining their area. They put a good old boy, actually Byron comes from New York, but they picked the least guy because they sit at a table. I got a friend of mine who's sitting there and they're going to make him a big person over in the Republican Party here. And he said, Darren, I'll look out for you because you should have won. Okay? They took and picked, and you see what screws up the Republican Party? People like that. You understand that
they're going to redo they're gonna find the corruption, then they're gonna have a new election. They're gonna have to have a new election, and not just the presidential, but all of the elections.
Subsidiary races take precedent and the state courts. The presidential
They're
race.
gonna have to do it all over again.
With the presidential race, in past cases that I've read at the Supreme Court, they don't want to have a new election because it undermines the confidence of the American people.
This is
What did they
unprecedented.
do in the first election? They undermined everything.
Well, they did.
It's
But you see,
unprecedented.
They even denied a court order. What kind of? How do you get away with not honoring
Right.
a court order?
Watch Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Arizona is about to flip.
Yep.
They got
Right.
the evidence, they got it all, and
They do.
and overturn that, which means that the Republicans take back the House, the Senate, because Kelly gets kicked out.
They'll do it. Well, the compromise will be they'll give it back to the lower levels, but they won't give it to the president.
No, they're going to give it to everyone.
They're gonna do it all. They're gonna do it all this time.
This state, my district was not treated fairly.
You just keep on plugging away at your case, Darren. You just keep on doing that because that's evidence.
Oh, we got the evidence.
Here in Broward County, where we got
Back
Florida.
up, Joe, so we can see your face, brother.
We got Florida first, and we got Broward first, and Gabe and stuff, and we're about to eliminate 2 of the swamp in what we call BREC, Broward Republican Executive Committee, and that is we're getting rid of Richard DiNapoli and Michelle Merrill. And those 2, especially DiNapoli, is very corrupt, and we're about to end their reign in BREC. Thanks.
Southwest Florida. He's like north of me. He's like on the other side.
So
he's 2.5 hours away from me.
So Joe, right, and you were running for sheriff, so the implications of that could be that you would win the seat.
I will take. Actually, I'm working with the Governor DeSantis, and we're in the process of getting rid of Tony because he's being indicted. He's responsible. If anyone knows Gregory Tony's case, you would know that he, as a 14-year-old, killed an 18-year-old in Philly with a kill shot. And Darren knows how hard it is to do a kill shot. At 14, it's almost impossible unless you're proficient in a gun. And later on, he lied on his application about his drug habit, which he found that he was an LSD user, and you don't start from LSD, which means he was doing drugs when he was a kid, which answers why he killed that 18-year-old, because of drug they all went Philly. Then you go down here, and he keeps lying on applications, and now we're finding out to various sources that him and his wife are money laundering. So he'll be gone soon, and since everybody's labeling me as the corrupted fire, and what I've been doing here in Broward, Governor DeSantis already said that I will be the next sheriff. It's just a matter of days. And they did background checks on me for years. Darren knows that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And he
Well,
knows
Joe would be a good sheriff.
Oh, absolutely. I already see you are the sheriff. You're already doing your job.
doing everything but having the shield right now.
Can I talk to Darren?
Yeah, hold on. Ron wants to speak to you.
Go ahead, Ron. Where are you,
Hey,
pal?
Darren. Sorry, guys. That was my attorney on the phone. All's good. I'll have to talk to Darren privately later.
Okay.
I want to say one of my dreams one day is to sit on stage with 5 major people that I admired as a teenager growing up as I was watching TV. And I will tell Darren who those 5 are later on. And I want to.
Are they all alive?
I want to do a platform with a psychologist and a psychiatrist and tell people how I did it through mental health by having a beautiful wife for 22 years.
Ron, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How can I follow you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, and I'm also on Anchor.
He
I'm trying to
follows me, Shannon.
and I do a podcast on Anchor, but I'm trying to learn how to send it off once I do it because I can't figure it out. I'm not computer savvy.
I'll teach you.
I'm
Okay,
not.
but what I look up if I'm searching for you on Facebook?
Ron Ziegler, Ziegler. I warn you, I do quite a bit of writings throughout the day.
Why would you warn me?
I'm warning you ahead of time.
I want to let you know that if you're interested in my writing, I do that as well. That's how you say
that's fine. That's fine.
I just want to let you know that not only do I do artwork, but I also am a writer. So there's plenty of that as well if you're interested in that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. That's excellent. I'm really impressed.
I had a very dear friend who's a Star Trek person. You may recognize his name.
Move your hand away from the camera, please.
Hey, I see your finger. You're giving us your fingerprint. Don't want to do that.
Sorry. Like I said, I'm not computer savvy. Can you see me now?
I can.
Okay, I'm
now.
sorry.
You look great. All right, good smile.
I have a very dear friend. Him and his buddy, my friend and actor. I don't talk to him very much, hardly, not even one or two times. But he sent me the entire series Enterprise on DVD, and he said, "I want you to enjoy this. This is from me, Gary Graham, and his friend James Wheeler." They sent it to me 5 years ago, and he sent me his ears from the show. And thank God I was able to keep those at my wife's house because otherwise they would have been.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. What a treasure.
I had autographs from the late Michael Landon and Victor French and people.
You had Victor French and Michael Landon?
Yep, I had their autographs.
To heaven.
And I'm friends with a lot of cast members on Facebook. Allison Ingram, Melissa Sue Gilbert, Dean Butler, and a few others. And Susan McCrae.
Did you like Little House on the Prairie?
Yep, I have the series. My wife and I watch it every day on Cozy TV at 4:00.
That was one of my favorite shows. Was Little House on the Prairie.
No, one of my followers are, and he follows me all the time. Justin Beamer. Beeper.
Wow. I also am a big Dexter.
He's huge. That kid is huge. My daughter says to me, "Dad, you got to let me direct message him." I said, "No, it's my professional account." And, Scott Baio is there with me. Follows, they're friends. Scott DMs me. And, when he comes down and plays golf, I told him when I'm up in New York, I'll set you up at Rayo's.
Oh, wow.
Sounds good, Darren.
So Ron, when you're going, so you said you're on Facebook under Ron Ziegler. You're on Twitter.
Yeah, you'll see me and my wife at a pool, and it says the best catch of my life. And then on the Enterprise bridge and sitting in the chair. I was sitting on I went up to New York. A friend of mine set up a GoFundMe page, and we went up to New York, and I met him, and he took me to New York Trek Ticonderoga, where I met James Crawley, who built the set Enterprise, and I got to meet Miss Barbara Luna. She sat on my lap, and that was a human experience of a lifetime. She was so beautiful, and she's still beautiful. She's my friend on Facebook. So is Gary Graham, Eric Pierpoint, who played in Alien Nation. There's many. My friend Manu Intrum, who was on Voyager. He played one of the children that got assimilated by the Borg. And then there's my friend Garrett Wang. Then there's my friend Robin Curtis, who played Savick. I met her at a convention. I met Henry Winkler. Don Most.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, Don Most is my friend on Facebook.
Oh, Donnie Most?
Yep, Don Most, yes. And let's see, there's so many others. You'll just have to go to my friend's place because I got over 2,000 people, and half of them I don't even talk to. And I'm also a big Michael C. Hall fan, Dexter fan. I like his darkness of mental health. And I also like Michael Douglas, and Linda Carter was my first girlfriend. I always tell my wife.
Michael Douglas is a nice guy. I worked with Michael Douglas and the whole family when he worked with his son and Spartacus. That was huge for me because I
I got
said,
that
Michael,
straight.
I got to meet Dad. Spartacus.
Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was your first love.
Linda
Yeah,
Carter.
first
Yeah.
love. I was 9 years old, and boy, did I have some cosmic
Oh man, I
pop.
was loving her too. I was crushing her.
I try to get my wife a
That's
Wonder
Wonder
Woman.
Woman.
Outfit. She'll wear it.
I like the new Wonder Woman. I'm crushing her too.
Brenda, will you wear a Wonder Woman outfit for me? She's over.
The new Wonder Woman.
Oh,
Sculpt.
She's a wonderful woman as well, isn't
yeah,
she?
she's my beautiful wife. I
Yes.
met her on my birthday and told her she's mine. She had no ultimatum.
And that was 22 years ago?
22 years ago. I'll be 56 on August 23rd this year.
Yes, you will. Very
Well,
good.
Yeah.
congratulations. That's awesome. That is
I
wonderful.
have blessed insurance now from what I'm at. There's a minister on Facebook. I suggest you all go be his friend, Ronnie Pierce.
Ronnie
Ronnie
Pierce.
Pierce. Okay.
Who's
And
that?
I have a very dear
He's
friend.
a minister or
Yeah,
a
I have a
pastor.
very dear friend who's a psychic medium. He's a very good friend I met on the Alan Show.
Somebody, I think I got a Pierce that's on my Twitter. Did you send them there?
I think I did. I
Okay, I
did.
saw Ronnie Pierce in a DM from you.
Yep, that's him. That's
Yeah.
him.
Pierce or Pearson?
Pierce. And then there's my friend Jeffrey Wands, who's a psychic medium. And he's very realistic.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Wands. He's down to earth. He's a good human being who took time to know me through. I used to call Alan Combs' show many years ago drunk. I called in drunk. And he says, Ron, what are you doing in a bar? You're a manic depressive. I go, I'm having a mixed drink with my voices. He goes, Ron, go home. And then I met Chuck, and then I got to meet Chuck Norris on Alan Combs' show. And I also, yep, I'm also friends with Jack O'Haron, who played Non on Superman.
Back up so we can see your face, Ron.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, back up a little bit so we see the whole face so you don't look like just a nose and eyes on there.
Yeah. Well, when I shave my head, my wife calls me Uncle Fester. So.
When I was growing up, Morticia lived on Queens Boulevard. I was about 8 years old. And
Wow.
there was 3 buildings on Queens Boulevard in the Parker Towers. She lived, Rocky Graziano lived there. So I knew them all growing up. But Morticia, I used to bring her newspaper up. And she had those crazy ass plants in the house. She was out there. She was a little out there. I was like, whoa, you know, but she was great on the show. She was just great. I grew up, as you know, with a lot of actors.
Joe wants to know, do you know who?
On Queens Boulevard, do you know where Alexander's was?
Hold on. Yes, call. I can't hear you.
Tell him to talk about technicians. Shut up.
Okay. Goodbye.
Right. Yeah. Oh.
Go ahead. Now back up a little bit, Joe. Back up again so we can see your whole face. Okay.
Do you recognize Alexander's when you're in Queens Boulevard?
Oh God, right at 67th Drive. Remember that was, of course.
63rd. You go
63rd Drive, right next to the FBI building.
Right. That's where my goddaddy
Remember I
died.
was telling you that, Shannon? The FBI building on Queens Boulevard.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's how I got into law enforcement because of
It's a secret one. You don't know it's there. They're in the building.
Yeah, I know.
Joe, are you in touch with Sheriff Mack?
Excuse me?
Are you in touch with Sheriff Mack?
Yes, I know Sheriff Mack.
Is a kind of like a.
I also know Joe Apreo. Remember Joe Apreo, Sheriff Joe? In Arizona?
Is he the one that was going after the birth certificate records?
No.
You got little things there you haven't told me, huh?
Yeah, just a bunch of stuff.
Wait, tell me about Freo, Sheriff Freo.
Joe Apreo is in Arizona. He did tent city up for illegals.
I can't hear very well.
He set up Tent City in Arizona in Maricopa County. He was the sheriff of Maricopa County. He set up Tent City for the illegals, and he's very strong anti-immigrant, anti-illegal alien type of thing, which is perfect because we need to support us. Like he was very big in that, and he was a very big Trump supporter initially.
Yes. It was all over the television. They were talking about him.
But as far as as far as Regal Park is concerned, I grew up. That's where I grew up. I lived in Park City.
You did.
Back up,
But,
Joe. You need to see the whole place, Joe. Back
okay,
up.
Park City?
Utah?
No, Park City in Regal Park, Queens.
Oh, okay.
She's not too familiar with the Queens area. Regal
No,
Park
I'm
is
not from there, so.
Regal Park is right by the. It's not far. You know, you have different parts. You can go from all the way from Flushing down to Long Island City, and there's in between Regal Park. It's a
Regal
Jewish
Park,
section.
right
It's a
there.
big Jewish section. Left
Yeah.
Rack City, Regal Park was
But
dominant Jewish section.
I lost you. We were talking about the sheriff Mack, and he's in Arizona. Then we're talking about the other sheriff. So is he from New York or
Joe Preo is from Maricopa County. Joe,
Arizona?
Maricopa County.
Maricopa County.
Yeah, so both of them are from Arizona. So how did we get into
They
New
know
York?
each other. We know each other.
He was just mentioning that he knows this sheriff too.
Yeah, we've worked together at times, at one time or another. So we know each other.
I'm curious because I joined Sheriff Mack's posse group, and got a year subscription to that, and he sends the email notifications, and one of them says, how do you know that your sheriff is a constitutional sheriff? And I'm afraid to even call the sheriff in the county where I got arrested because they're all under the fiscal courts.
Look what I'm showing.
Constitution.
That's the Constitution. I carry this a pocket Constitution that I carry with me every which way I go. We gave out hundreds of thousands of Constitutions.
I don't have one. You know that? Imagine that I don't have that.
You need to get one.
Sure.
And I'm trying to. You got to see the one that congressmen carry. I want that one. When I become congressman, I want mine.
So Sheriff Joe, you're saying?
Hey guys, guys and gals, I want to talk about my dear friend Ted Nugent.
Yes,
Let's
Carl called you too.
Yeah,
and
Nugent.
Screams and Dreams and Cat Scratch Fever.
Tell
My
us.
friend Ted Nugent. I met him through my dear friend Mike Essence on his radio show. About 2 months ago?
Yeah.
And we got to talking,
Coming back.
and he enjoyed my conversation with him on the phone. And he does live feed on Facebook, and he always sends me a notification that he's live, and I try to go to him every time on Facebook. It's amazing that I'm meeting all these
We're there,
wonderful
Carl.
people.
We're talking about
Yeah. That's
it. Okay, we're there.
that is amazing. That's
Carl was calling to hear about Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent. Hold
tell
on.
us about
Alexa, play Ted Nugent's national anthem.
Wow. And then when I was working at Burger King back in 1980s, before he became famous, he came up and used my bathroom. Can I use your bathroom? I said, sure. You can
Alexa.
I had a nice meeting with him, and he said he was about to commit suicide because he didn't have any food in him for a few days. And I go, sure. He goes, normally I don't do it, but I let him in the bathroom at Burger King to clean himself up. And it was Johnny Deppstein, and at the time, and he changed his name to Johnny Depp. And I met him in Davie when he was young, and he lived in Miramar with his parents, and he had a falling out with his parents, and he said he was going to go out to California and be on 21 Jump Street in 6 months. So I got to meet Johnny Depp before he was famous, and he sent me his autograph, and unfortunately I lost all my autographs as a result of my loss of my parents' condo.
maybe come back.
Hold on, wait. Is your friend here?
Take a shot. I know that. I kind of crazy at the diameter.
All right, I'll transfer that well over the radio.
You hear this?
It's like,
Sure, pull it up on screen.
Hang on. You want Joe? All right, here he is.
all right, Alexa.
Alexa, pause.
Thank you.
That one doesn't sound good there, but on television, on YouTube, it was better. He broke out. He was there. He did it at the Trump rally.
Mm-hmm.
That was,
did the Trump rally.
it was awesome. It was incredible. I want to pull that up because it is a good one. And Carl wanted to hear a little bit. There it is. There it is. Bring it up. Did I go with that one?
Yeah.
Didn't I go with the second one?
God bless America.
Okay, wait. Here we go. Hold
To
on.
perform the national anthem, Michigan's own Ted Nugent.
Here we go. Here we go.
Go play it.
Coming. They're at the rally. He's
I
at
know.
the Trump rally.
I watched it. I'm part of right side broadcasting. I saw every rally.
Here he goes. There we go. Now, he rips into that guitar like nobody did. I never heard anybody play the national anthem like that, the Star Spangled Banner. It was incredible. He did that, and Trump had him there. In that rally, everybody was megaing up, and it was good. It was incredible, and it was incredible.
You know what? I have had a wonderful time, but I'm gonna have to check out here.
I'm gonna have to check out too. We went because of our late start. We did a lot of time. The conversation was great. We're gonna sign off, and we want to thank, of course, we always want to thank Sean, who tolerates Colvin Nivius III. Code
Thanks,
Media.
Sean.
This thing gets put together by Sean. He does all of the technical. He's
Thank
the
you,
executive
Sean.
producer of technical, and without Sean, this don't happen. Without me and John, this doesn't happen. Everything is a team. The
Thank
effort
you,
is all
Darren.
the
Thank
team.
you, John.
We are all separate, but we're together to accomplish.
Yeah,
To come
I
to
like it.
we get to hear your story. We get to hear Shannon's story. Now Shannon is working collectively with me, and I'm
We
working.
want updates. We want to be updated on.
You'll be up. Well, you'll be updated because you'll get updates from me, and when we're all
But we
there.
want to be we want to have him on the show again.
Yes, absolutely, and of course we got to get past this gag order. But we want to thank everybody and all the contributors. We want to thank John, and we want to talk about We want that book. We want that book, The Last Goodbye. And we're going to go where, John, to get it?
Amazon.
Well, you get the last goodbye-book.com.
And
Thanks,
that's how we're
John.
going to get The Last Goodbye. Did you get your copy, Shannon, that he sent you yet?
You
I
have
haven't
it on
checked my
audio
mail.
books?
No, you
No,
should.
to check-
I sent it the very next day. You should have got it.
I have to go check my mail. I haven't done it today. I've been here with you.
No, and I sent it a week ago. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
We want to thank everybody, and we're just so happy.
I'll check. I've got other people who check the mail too, so it could have been misplaced.
We got some other people coming on. We're going to have some people next week. We're going to have somebody else, and who knows, maybe Shannon will be with us, our new constitutionalist. She's such a
I have a
brilliant-
verse to read when we. I have a verse I brought to read. Do you want me to do it now or
Oh, well, please, madam,
when you're done?
if you would. I appreciate you, Shani. Shani, I'm going to call you
appreciate
Shani. You're my Shani. I'm going to call you Shani.
All right.
I give everybody nicknames.
Well, this is a verse that I got from a court case called Bell versus Maryland, and it was basically one of the Are you familiar with the 1960s sit-ins, like at the diners when they got arrested? The African Americans would get arrested for trespassing. So this case, my arrest was trespassing, because of my ADA disabilities.
Because
And
you
so I'm-
refuse to wear a mask.
right over the mask thing. So I saw this verse and it just stood out, and it was
Just while you said that, while you're on that subject, when you said, could they help me with my case? They can't because of the separation of powers. Another state can't jump into another state's business.
oh yeah, you're talking about Florida. So
Yeah, because you said, could they help? They can't. But go ahead. Continue, my dear.
So this is a quote that in the opinion that the justice wrote.
From
And
what?
his name was Justice. It was actually Justice Douglas, Darren. I went and checked it. It was Douglas.
Okay.
And he said the first Chief Justice of the United States, John Jay, spoke of the free air of American life. The great purpose of the 14th Amendment is to keep it free and equal. Under the Constitution, no American can or should be denied rights fundamental to freedom and citizenship. I therefore join in reversing these trespass convictions. Is that the one that you're looking for, Darren?
Yes, that's right. That's the one about the free air and how important the 14th Amendment is and the purpose of the 14th Amendment. The modification for disabled and why it is the law of all laws because it embraces the Constitution. That 101st Congress knew because of decades of abuse and neglect that deprived and denied, and some killed, murdered, like you saw in the nursing home murders by the nursing home murderer, Andrew Cuomo, Bill de Blasio, Letitia James. They are the elected officials, including Chuck Schumer, responsible for the death of those folks. We have elected leaders, before we sign off. Those elected leaders take an oath of office to protect the liberties you possess as the guardians of those liberties, those constitutional rights. The 14th embodies and embraces the ADA that you may interlock with your the Bill of Rights. The first 10 are the most powerful. So the 14th grabs hold of those to preserve your due process. It tells due process how to process in a format of accommodation. So as we go forward, always remember that your disability has been equalized. No more
One more.
patronizing us. Go ahead, give it to me.
This is the other one. I think this is the one that really
I
topped.
gotta say, for the person who is so shy, how about now? Huh? I told you a little work. I'd have you there in a minute. Did I tell you?
Yeah, here I am.
There you go. Go ahead, bring it. Let me hear.
This was in the conclusion of the same case by the same justice. The constitutional right of all Americans to be treated as equal members of the community with respect to public accommodations is a civil right granted by the people in the Constitution, a right which is too important in our free society to be stripped of judicial protection.
That's right. That is the one that's important. We got to use that in my case because it's the right. It's the one in the 14th Amendment that embodies the fundamental
So
rights.
that case, it applies to all Americans, not just African Americans.
But no, now it does because of the ADA. But before the ADA, you know, it theoretically embodied them. But this embodies them in a different and more amazing way because it recognizes the limitation that would interfere with the participation. So it outlines formatting for enjoyment purposes. Are you there, Shan? You got froze. She froze. Shannon froze. She'll probably come back. She froze. She's frozen. She froze. She's frozen. Shannon, you're frozen. They'll laugh at you. Anyway, that being said, that very important fundamental right is embraced and embodied in the 14th Amendment to preserve. You have 1 through 10. You know, without the ADA, people with disabilities faced grievous harm and threat of imminent harm, just like you suffered, Ron. You know, Joe, when he becomes sheriff, you know, we will have that conversation with Joe when he's sheriff and embrace those thoughts and concerns that good law enforcement does, knowing that there are better ways to deal with the mentally ill. We're not limited to the limited training, but we need to expound and make better training that all law enforcement are doing the job where they don't have to take the life of a mentally ill, but they could. That benefits everyone, because it's not the intent of a police officer to go home and put another notch in his belt. I could say with absolute certainty, coming from a law enforcement family, and the friends and the many friends, and along the road of my life, you know, the idea is to protect and serve. This is an area that is very challenging for law enforcement. But as Joe gets in, I will put my best efforts, and I will show, and I've designed ways that we could interact with them, but it is the best for the protection of the cop and the citizen that we implement the police advocates. The advocates will go between to protect the interest of the police and the interest of the citizen. That's why they have a best objective look. And then together with new restraints for the mentally challenged and those, you see, there's a lot of things that they don't know about law enforcement, the ADA. If a person's got a bad rotator cuff here, right, and he's got one prosthesis, you can't cuff him behind his back, although it's a security measure for police, and Joe will tell you, but you can't. You're getting sued. You're getting sued. They're not trained about the ADA. You understand? They're trained to subdue the criminal, do this, put him behind his back. Today, it's a different day. So we have to embrace the changes and face the challenges into security risks that we could bring down to a minimum with the disabled. And I'm only referring, I got that reflux and it's killing me. We got to bring it to the minimum where we can keep the police secure and subdue the mentally ill person either by a tranquilizer, where we minimize, and then put a vest on him that doesn't restrict him too much, but he can't hurt others. I designed limited things, and I'll bring those designs to life. A lot of people said you can make a lot of money. As an advocate, it's not about making the money, you know? It's about making the change that benefits all. Because what better legacy than you leave as the guy who solved the problem? To me, that's a legacy. Like the hero who went and saved 3 men at the cost of his own life, but survived, but his cousin didn't. So we all leave a legacy, and that's the legacy I want to leave. One that brought tremendous change, and it was so simple. A boy could have done it. So that's it for today on our show. So we can all sign off. I want to thank everybody involved with this. Joe, thank you. You know, keep in touch with me. We'll talk after the show. Keep following on Twitter. Keep doing, and we'll keep shifting stuff back because
I'll keep sending you the podcast and stuff like
I
that.
keep sending it, and I put it on the page. Somebody took it down. I send it into the groups. Somebody keeps infringing, so they're censoring a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. They don't like the words using truth, the whole truth. They don't like that. They don't like tweets that begin with "Here's the truth." They don't like that.
Yeah. Well, the truth is out there. Voice of the People was a radio show that we did with Scarlett, which is really my wife.
Right.
And we did that years ago, and we made it, and we were being censored in Block Club for a while, so we decided to go off of that, and I put it back as a podcast, and we're getting pretty good results with it, and it's a good thing. And what's great is that we're now sponsored, and we get money off of it, which is a good thing.
Yeah, sure. We'll go on. I'll go on the show again.
Yeah. And Mike Essen, his show is on now anyway, but we were on Mike Essen, you know, you've been on his show. And
Yeah,
we get to
right. Wasn't that on Mike's show?
Yeah, you were on Mike Essen's show one time.
Yeah.
Before
the election, long before the election.
Right.
Long before I got robbed for my seat that I'm going to seek. When they wanted me to go for the 19th, it was the 25th. Do you realize Mario Diaz-Balart covers part of Miami, the 25th district? When you look on his Ballotpedia before we go, it says he won the election outright after they canceled the primary in the election. Joe, do you know how a person could win the election after they cancel it? How do you win an election if it's canceled?
It's impossible, but they do it.
It's a magical election like Jack's Magic Beans?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of election was that?
Yeah, that's the corruption we have down here.
You know, the judges they tried with we're on our 6th month that I didn't get injunctive relief, but the other judge ordered, and we got it here. This was the order signed by Judge Walker in Georgia, in Tallahassee. He said, he told the magistrate, you will accommodate. Your order and report of recommendations is rejected and bounced because he said, you're going to do this, Aquino, you're going to do that. He said, no, first thing you're going to do, magistrate, is accommodate. That's the first thing you're going to do. The second thing is you're going to see what other further accommodations are needed. He's not asking, so ordered. The other guy says done and ordered. He says so ordered, which is much more powerful of words. So we just want to thank Judge Walker for upholding my rights and that of my uncles. The body of the complaint talks about the limitations where a counsel is supposed to be appointed for my uncle Fernando, who suffered voter fraud, who suffered abuse and neglect and theft of property. His life, his liberty, and his property were stolen. What is their question? Why did he not give the injunctive relief to get back his $36,000 that the Riverdale nursing home stole? Well, we're going to fill out the papers he asked. He got a little, I want to show everybody, after the judge's order, because I'm dyslexic, and I want to do this pro se, but not for my uncle. Look what he did. He filled out most of it. All I got to do is add everybody's name and a brief story. I said, but I did this story. You have it. We saw the complaint. But he got that order, and the judge said, you will accommodate. So he lines out the complaint, the number, the address, the codes. Here you go. Now just put the defendants down there. The governor DeSantis is a defendant. Why? Because although we have a separation of powers, his duty to enforce the right through the Board of Election to uphold the rights of disabled voters was incomplete. And as a result of that, I suffered loss and expense. I'm entitled to a fair election. I'm a Republican. This is a red state. I supported others, and somebody won, and it seemed impossible. But the suppression and the commissioner at the Board of Elections, Jennifer Edwards, said, I will not accommodate. She said she wouldn't do it. So I don't know what the court's going to need, but that requires I get a new election because the commissioner in a district with significant votes in an 800,000 constituency deprived me of that vote. But more importantly, They said the 25th district was not available. They lied and took $10,400 because they just wanted to put him in. Mario Diaz-Balart is complicit to that lie and should not be able to serve again. He's got to be taken down as a congressman. You can't take the seat. You deprive every citizen within the district the right of choice. You didn't put yourself up for election. You took the election. There is no law within the state that overrides the Constitution in the election time for a candidate for Congress. There is none. Not to my knowledge. So thereby, quiet, guys.
All right, anyway, Darren, I have to take off on.
So do we. So again, thanks for coming, Johnny Pizza, Darren Aquino, and our dear friend Joe here. Whoa! And we had a great show today. The dogs are going crazy. We'll probably edit this part. I don't know, but it was a great show. We look forward to seeing you soon. Call me. I'd love to be on your show.
Ron will keep you up to date. We just got discovery information that Ron will talk to you later about.
Okay, sounds good. Johnny Pizza.
God bless everyone.
Soon. We'll talk later. God bless and thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you for joining us at Code Wind Talk.
I just
Okay,
did.
I need you to text Michael and say, I need the email for.
Good luck, Joe.
Oh, I can't get out of this.